Welcome back, everybody, to the Rock and Blues Experience. Coming up on the show today, the main feature is a far-reaching conversation with Deborah Bonham, who's recently lent her voice, along with a whole host of other rock royalty, to a high-profile charity album. It's called Think Aloud for Parkinson's. We're going to be looking at that project, as well as her life in music, growing up around Led Zeppelin, and the current Bonham Bullick album. But before that, though, this week, Canada's rock band, The Damn Truth, returned with a magnificent self-titled new album. It was produced by the Grammy-winning producer Bob Rock. Now, Lee LeBaum, Dave Traynor and P.Y. Letelier joined me on last week's show. If you missed it, here's a clip with the band talking about working with Bob Rock and what his first impressions were when he heard the new music.
When I hear you, I feel the spirit of Led Zeppelin. Those were his words. Now, to be mentioned in the same breath as a band, for some, who are the greatest rock and roll band ever, by a producer who's been involved in some of the biggest selling albums ever. This is just the endorsement that you want, isn't it? I mean, this is huge.
I mean, absolutely, like that. Yeah. Like that moment, because that was what he told us on that first initial phone call. And he was like, I was listening to the demos, and I hear the essence. I hear. The minute he said that, it was just, you get it, you get us, you get it. I mean, we absolutely adore Zepp and adore, that time in music. The 60s and 70s were from our biggest inspirations in music. And it's just, it was like the clencher. It was like, okay, he knows exactly what we want to do, and we're going to do it, and we're very, 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 very amazed and humbled, but at the same time, we really believe that we could do this, that we could do this together, that Bob will elevate us to that next level. And he did.
Now, you can watch that feature in full on the YouTube channel, on the website, or on the Facebook pages. And if you haven't yet listened to the album, then do, because it is time very well spent. Back to today, then. Deborah Bonham has spent her entire life in and around the music industry. Now, we met up a few weeks ago and ended up whiling away a good few hours talking about everything from her promising operatic talents while she was at school, swapping albums, getting into prog rock, and drinking surreptitious glasses of martini during school lunch breaks with then best friend Neville, seeing Led Zeppelin for the very first time, and of course, having to deal with the grief of losing John. Following on from that, she's gone on to forge a hugely successful career in the music industry.
Think Aloud for Parkinson's. And it's actually a really timely release for this project, which has gathered together some of rock music's big names. I mean, they've got Roger Taylor, Hank Marvin, Pete Townsend, Gary Brooker, Mike Rutherford, and of course yourself, to help raise awareness for, and this was something I didn't know actually, the fastest growing neurological condition in the world. So this is an important project.
Yes, very much so, very much so. And I'm really honoured to be in it. And of course, I'm singing with legendary Ann Peebles, who I'm a lifelong fan of. And when I was when I first started to sing, and I went over to Robert Plant's studio, as you do.
Just drop it in.
You know what?
As we all did.
He's my greatest friend, and he's like a brother to me. But every time I mention it, I just think, oh, Dad, But anyway, yeah.
No, you can't. Well, you can't. I mean, the thing, it's like, we'll talk about this in a bit later. It's about you performing and using your surname. I mean, it's your name.
Yeah.
You can't, they're your friends and they're the people that you grow with.
He gave me some very good advice. So when I went over, I said, look, I want to see if I can sing. And he handed me Ann Peebles' I Can't Stand the Rain album. And he went, go and listen to this. You won't go far wrong if you pay attention to that. And of course, I've been listening ever since. So to be able to be singing with her, it's just like, I have to pinch myself. It's a total honour, and for such a great cause. Yeah, I mean,
do you know what? I was reading the details of this, and it said 1 in 37 people in the UK will be predicted to be diagnosed during their lifetime, and it affects something like 8.5 million people globally. I mean, it's incredible. But music being this force for doing good is just, it's great to see. And it's great to see, you know, the big names, once you get them on board, it carries weight.
The thing is, we, you know, as artists, you're asked to do a lot of different projects. It's charity projects, and I love that. And I'm a patron of a few charities, and you know, I love my animal charities, and I love my children charities, and sea, and all sorts of everything. Coastal stuff that's going on, rivers. Parkinson's, yes, 1 in 3 people are personally affected, whether it's you or, you know, somebody you know. 1 in 3 of us have some connection. And my husband Pete, husband guitarist Pete Bullick, his stepfather has it. So we know only too well. So when Ian Grant, who is one of the, you know, over the years has been one of the greatest managers with Big Country, and he's worked with the Stranglers, and you know, he then started to work with us, and him and his wife became really, really good friends. His wife Debbie, and lovely people. And then when I found out later that he was having his own struggles with Parkinson's, it just seemed the obvious thing to do when I was asked if I'd be interested in doing something for it. And then when it became with Ann Peebles, it was like, wow, yeah, that's great. And then with a lot of these things, these albums that get released, you know, really sometimes you don't see the cash coming in. It's more about awareness. But this one has already raised a whole lot of money. You know, the Who guys, Pete Townsend, has already donated a large amount of money.
Yes.
And so Ozzy Osbourne is now donating the profits from their show that they're doing in London. So this is it's real, you know. Real money is coming to the charity, which is needed to find this cure that I believe they will find, you know. It's just all about money and time, and so I'm honoured. I'm really honoured.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people may not know about you that your singing career began to take shape at Kidderminster Convent School when you were winning all these cups and prizes in opera. I mean, it's incredible. And a potential opera star.
Well, until I went to see Ian Jury and the Blockheads, and had a little badge. I was given a little badge which had his head in green and his shoulders on a yellow background. And I was a good girl at school, and I was a prefect and a house leader, or whatever they call them. And you weren't allowed to wear anything else on your blazer, you know. But I snuck in this tiny little badge. And I got called into Reverend Mother's office. I mean, you know the songs that Ian did. One of them, very, very explicit words. And I loved him. I loved that whole era of music coming through. And I went in to see Reverend Mother and about something else. And it was about the up-and-coming opera we were doing or something. And she just looked at my blazer and went, "No, what's that on your blazer there, Deborah?" And I sort of looked down. So I'm like standing there thinking, oh no, what am I going to say? And before I said anything, she said, "Is that the Irish Shamrock?" And I went, "Oh yes, it is, Reverend Mother, it is." And that was it. You know, I could do no wrong. As long as I won the cups and I wore an Irish Shamrock on my blazer, I could do no wrong. So I'm waiting for her. If there is such thing as the pearly gates, she's going to be stood there like this. Deborah Bonham.
Do you know who was on the last show I did? Chaz Yankel.
Oh, okay.
So we talked about it. Neville Farmer.
Oh, good grief! Yeah, I used to sneak
responsible for getting you into all of this. I love these stories. It sort of gives you a snapshot of the time. You're at an all-girls school, he's at a boys' school, and you're meeting at lunchtime to swap albums.
We were, and I keep telling people that we'd go to a coffee shop and
coffee shop.
No, we didn't. We went into it was Comberton Hill in Kidderminster, and there was an off license. And Neville was very. I mean, I'm still big friends with him all these years, and Neville was totally going and get us a bottle of martini, martini and lardy cakes it was. And then we'd sit and, that was it. I was into gong at the time. There was bands such as, I had such an eclectic mix of growing up with music. I mean, both my brothers, John and Michael, they were into everything, really. So I was listening to all sorts, but I really had a big love of Motown soul, and it came from them, But
and selling England by the pound.
Well, that came from Neville, actually. And that said, John used to play a lot of Traffic and Genesis and, just all sorts of music out there. But selling England by the pound, I hadn't heard it. I hadn't heard John play it. And Neville had it in his bag. And I had Camembert Electric by Gone. We swapped. I think I loved his album more than he loved mine. So there we were over a bottle of martini in the park. Honestly, me and my convent outfit, and him in his King Charles grammar ball school.
I'm trying to imagine how you weren't about the coolest kid in school with John as a brother, but as you actually said at the time, most of the girls were into David Cassidy, etc. And Zeppelin being an album band, they never used to get played on radio, really, in the UK.
That's it. That's why I was mates with the King Charles boys, because they were all Zeppelin fans and Genesis and everything else that was going on at the time. It was all Osmonds and Cassidy at the convent, so yeah.
And you actually had, when it comes to writing your book, your life story, and you start to recount the time that, Robert and John, I had Led Zeppelin at my 6th birthday party. Who did you have?
Yeah, I know. It was a crazy growing up.
Where did you first see Zeppelin? Was it Bath Festival or Birmingham Town Hall?
It was Bath, and then Birmingham Town Hall, and then Birmingham Odeon. I think the Birmingham Odeon and the Birmingham Town Hall weren't too far apart, if I remember. I mean, it was definitely Birmingham Odeon, I think, where I thought I want to do this. It was unbelievable. And even, they had the Mellotron broke down during the concert, but there were people hanging over the top. And I remember looking up at the gods, so to speak, and they were all hanging over and just going mad. And I thought, wow. And the music just did it for me even at that young age, and I thought I want to do this, and I've been trying ever since.
You had a really musical house, didn't you? There was always something going on in your house. The big band sound, which is where John's love of Gene Krupa. How many people were influenced by listening to Gene Krupa? I was talking to Carmine Appice, who was saying, if you were into drums, Gene Krupa was the man. Yeah,
he was. My mum and dad were big fans of all that music. So they were playing Eddie Goodman, who Gene Krupa played for. My dad was into Mahalia Jackson and Billie Holiday and things like that. So we used to, and Lena Horne, he used to love Lena Horne. So we had all this fantastic music, and they both loved Harry James, and of course Gene Krupa played with him and Buddy Rich. So that was John's love of.
And how talking about cool parents, there aren't many that would be there to acquire front row tickets to see the Beatles, which is what they did with your two brothers and got them along to see.
My mom, she said she couldn't hear them even play. There were the screams were just ridiculous. But in the same way, John sat there and said, "That's what I want to do," and that's exactly what he did from the minute he saw the Beatles. And then, of course, later on, he ended up playing with Paul McCartney on Back to the Egg, and they did a great track. I remember before John played with him, Paul McCartney released Let Them In, I think, on a single, which I bought, and it was okay. Yeah, it was okay. But I flipped it over, and there was a song called Beware My Love on the other side, and I played that absolutely non-stop. I loved it. And then later on, I found out that John did a version of it with him. So yeah. I mean, that is it's a great story that he just sat in the audience and just thought, front row, couldn't hear them, but just thought I would do that, you know.
You mentioned Robert's advice, and his presence has been a constant over the years, right from the beginning. That night that you pick up the phone, you think, right, I've got to have a go at this. And ring him up and say, look, I've got to see if I can sing. I want to see if I can do it. And so you're off to Palomino Studios. But what was great was he didn't dismiss you straight away and just said, no, you just go off and do something else.
No, not at all. He did say, and I think this was a very important thing for me and has been throughout my career, he did say, you know, what are you going to do about the name? Because you're going to get everyone come after you. And of course, I was young and looked good then, you know, and all of that. And he said, you're going to have all these people come after you, and it's going to be Zeppelin related. And he said, but what are you going to do about the name? And I thought about it, and I said, but it is my name, you know. And by
absolutely
disassociating, there's something weird about that, because it's my dad's name, it's my grandfather's name, you know. And I thought, no, I can't do that. So I thought, I better be bloody good, you know. There's no half measures here. If I'm crap, then I've just got to stop, you know. I better make sure I listen to the Ann Peoples every day, you know. Well, that's, you know, and I've met everyone, you know. I've met them wanting to make me do disco versions of Led Zeppelin with dancers behind me, and, you know, oh
my God. Do you remember Dread Zeppelin?
Yeah, I do remember Dread Zeppelin.
Best advice he gave you was get out there and earn your dues in a live environment. You were 19. And you still have the letter that he wrote you with that advice on it. On the Wolverhampton Wanderers stationery.
That's amazing. Yes, I do.
You've still got it.
He gave me 100 quid to go and for the. Oh no, not 100 quid. He wouldn't have given me that. No, he did. He gave me 100 quid to go and get myself together and get up to the General Wolf, it was called, in Coventry.
Yeah.
And he said, go and get yourself a gig at the General Wolf. Here you are. Here's a bit of expenses to get yourself together and go and do it. So, yeah, I've still got that. And
that's brilliant.
And I did. And then, of course, since we've played together, you know, which has been brilliant. He decked for me, bless his heart. The audience could not believe it. We played Blackpool Blues Festival last year or something like that. And I had the worst flu and laryngitis. I mean, I was really hanging. I was so bad. And so anyway, I thought I've got to try and get through this. Robert called me up and he said, oh, I'm going to come up and see you. I said, no, I'm going to be dreadful. He said, no, I'll come up. So I said, do you fancy getting up? He said, yeah, I'll get up and do one. Of course, I did about 2 songs. I couldn't sing anymore. And I went, no, my special guest, Robert Plant, and the audience. They didn't know that this was going to happen. Went absolutely mental. By this stage, he'd got it, and he's going, I'm only doing one. About 7 songs later, he's still up there. Oh, it was brilliant. Yeah.
But talking about your name, you did send out your demos anonymously, though, didn't you? Because obviously, you know, you didn't want that expectation of your name, and you ended up with that Carrera deal, that 10-year deal that they wrapped you into for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Things unravelled quite quickly. I mean, you were off to Germany. You were working with Tony Carey, who was a big name back then as well. But this must have been a fabulously exciting time. You've got a deal with a record label that had big acts on it. Yeah, it must have been amazing.
It was. I mean, and it was big money that I didn't see. I bought a pair of silk pajamas. I thought, why not? I can go out and buy something. So I went and bought some silk pajamas. I've still got them as a reminder that these silk pajamas, you know, that they meant so much back then. And really, what a load of nonsense. Yeah, it all went really wrong.
You had 100 songs I saw written somewhere about for that album, and even Robert sent in a few ideas as well.
Yeah, it was just, you know, it was all very exciting at the beginning, and it went drastically wrong in that I suddenly realised I was being absolutely manipulated left, right, and centre. That it was all about taking me to Germany. No one spoke English in the session. The producer, and he was a great guy, Ryan Pertner, the producer. But it was like, just sing that, and then off you go. You know, that type of thing. So I had nothing to do with the album whatsoever. And they changed me into this like 80s. I mean, I don't know. I look like some version. And I love Bonnie Tyler, but the cover was like...
What was the cover?
What is that? What is that? I had these pictures taken, which I really liked, and they thought, no, you got to, we're going to...
I remember the album coming out. I remember the full-page ad in Kerrang! Magazine.
Yeah, there you go.
With the street going through the picture, and you're thinking, faster than the speed of light. But I remember buying the album. The album got great reviews.
It did, but it wasn't me, you know. It just wasn't me at all. I mean, I was... Oh, thank you so much. My assistant has just come with that. I mean, points much have I?
Yes. Yes.
What the heck?
Love it.
It did. It got amazing reviews, but it wasn't me. I was doing stuff like Joni Mitchell. I was doing West Coast LA, you know. I was hippie, hairy fairy. Hairy fairy? Hairy? I was a hairy fairy. It wasn't me. So these songs, I managed to get some of my songs on there. And they took them from being, you know, me just basically playing acoustic guitar, and singing and loving that to, real 80s type of.
Yeah. At that time, you said that it could have gone badly wrong if that album had really taken off.
I think I wouldn't have survived.
You said you headed off down that hedonistic road, but you're quite a spiritual person as well, aren't you? Because you talked. I've read this somewhere. You talked about that moment in time where you had that dream, that strange dream where your brothers appeared to be taking you by the hand. Yeah, and you're like, hang on a minute, this no, and then you wake up the following morning and think, right, that's it. There's a message here.
I kept saying in my dream, but what about? I couldn't work out where I was going. I was just so happy to see them, and I was trotting along and thinking, oh, this is great. And then I remembered my mom, and because my mom was living with us. Yeah, it was a real, and I just woke up and went, that's it. But it wasn't so much hedonistic. It was I just went down the road of too much alcohol and and taking stuff, you know, and a lot of it was rooted in the fact that I never really got over the grief, and every time I started to try and get forward a little bit. I mean, with Led Zeppelin, you're never allowed to forget. I mean, we've got the Becoming Led Zeppelin film now, you know. Yeah. Which is, it's a great positive film, but, you know, nonetheless, when you're watching it, and it was brilliant to hear John and then see my brother Michael as well, but who died young also. So, and then while you're in it, it's fantastic. And then you come away and you suddenly go, wow, you know, my mom, my dad, my two brothers have all gone. So, you know, the
grieving, I mean, because you were quite young, I mean, the grieving process must have been very, very difficult because it's so public. And for us, if somebody close to you passes away, there's that period. But gradually over time, you know, things sort of work their way back to normal. But for you, every time you turn around a corner, somebody could be talking about it. It's in the news. There's anniversaries. There's always a reminder. So it's almost that you're never allowed to get over it.
No, you're not. And then, of course, it wasn't many, 10 years after John, my father passed away and I found him. So that then brought back all of John as well. And then, 10 years after that, my other brother passed away. And I was, and we were, myself and Michael were incredibly close. And he passed away at 49. So it just seemed to be this roller coaster of never being able to come to terms with losing my family. And it's only really now that I'm starting to deal with stuff that, I've realized that, and I tell you, I know this does sound a bit corny, but the animals and the stuff I get involved in have made a huge difference to me. As soon as I start getting a bit maudlin, I'm out on the horse or walking the dogs and I'm smelling the coffee. I'm actually out there thinking, well, actually, this is a beautiful world. We just all got to fight for it. And that does sound hippy-dippy, and
not really.
Especially when you see
Absolutely
what's
not.
happening right now.
Yeah.
We had Ukrainians come and live with us, and they've been incredible, and we're very close to them. And it's just, you've just got to somehow keep going. And I think now that I'm older, I'm realizing that these things happen in life, and no one's immune to it. Everyone
Absolutely.
has their stuff going on, which is why, going back to the beginning, it is so great to be involved in this for Ian Grant and Parkinson's disease, because if we can do one little bit of good in our corner, whatever we can do as one human being in our corner, that can help something, and if we all did that, then it would be a better place.
Oh, without a doubt. I was going to tell you about you. You showed an incredible will and character during that time, that Carrera deal time, when you literally walked away from the recording industry and, looked like you may never, be involved in it again. But you ended up going to work in the industry in virtually every department, from marketing to legal.
Legal's been,
and it was where you were sat in that legal department that you sit there and you spot the loophole to extricate yourself
I was working
from this
on the shares contract at the time.
Share.
Yeah. And I'm reading these things and I'm thinking, wait a minute, and I'm starting to understand all of it. So I went back, I'd saved all my contracts and I went back and got all my rights back. And it's, I think it was one of the best things I did. I had to get out there. I had to earn money and I had to be self-sufficient. And it gave me a kick up the backside and made me realize that,
You said at the time, at that time, things had changed a bit, because if it was difficult as a teen in your 20s, as a 30-year-old woman in this industry, you got to work 10 times as hard because everybody thinks you're over the hill and past it.
Well, that's it. I mean, then we went to America and with my nephew Jason, and we were opening up the shows for him while he was doing his stuff. We were doing all original material, so, we were opening up and the shows were packed. And we were going down a storm, an absolute storm. And the Sony representative was following us around. And in the end, I thought, well, this is it. Yeah, I'm older, but we're seasoned. We're going down absolutely, incredibly. Surely something's going to happen with this. So anyway, we met with the head of Michael Jackson's label, MJJ, and a guy who signed AC/DC actually, but worked for Atlantic Records. And we met with them in this swanky hotel in Beverly Hills, and they just talked across me. It was like, well, and then there was like, well, she's no spring chicken, so what are we? But she's got the voice. hello, just played all my songs, and they're going down the storm, and they're like, but what are we going to do with her? We can't market her the way she is. So, and maybe that was true, I'm happy to take that on the chin, maybe that's true. But they then said, well, I know what we'll do. She's got the voice. We're going to do Lady Sings the Blues, a load of, or Billie Holiday and, that type of stuff. Now, even though I was in my 30s, I had not had that, I had the grief of losing John, but I'd had a relatively privileged upbringing,
Yeah.
I couldn't sing Billie Holiday. I couldn't do her justice. It was like, how the hell can I sing that when you can hear her vulnerability, her pain, everything that she'd gone through in life? The segregation, the way she was treated as a woman, and a black woman at that, Me. So I actually sort of stood up and walked away from it. And Pete, my husband, was in the meeting on that. And they're going, yeah, I mean, we could get her a Grammy. And we're talking a big deal, a few $1 million, They're talking there. And I just got up and walked out. Not that anybody sort of noticed, but Pete came up after me. And he's going, do you want to reconsider it? And I went, I said, no, I can't. I mean, I would like to give that a go now. I probably could, because my life has been, even though it's not comparable whatsoever, you bring your own,
Yeah.
own,
You said it's not about the stardom. It's about being proud of the music that you've created. And when you look back,
I couldn't have stood to have done something and not done Billie Holiday justice. I mean, it's as simple as that. She's worthy of more than that.
But you've stuck to those guns, though, haven't you? I mean, when you look back, since that point and up to now, Old Hyde, Duchess Spirit albums, the recent Bonham Bullick collection. I mean, you are in a position where you can look back now and say, well, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I'm really proud of what I did.
Yeah, I am. I am. I'm really comfortable with it. Let's say that, but especially the Bonham Bullick album. That's the first time I produced. And it was difficult. That was an eye-opener. But I absolutely love the record. And I think that's what's important. If you can sit down, I see myself one day in my old folks' boogie home, with my band, and the old mate.
Well, your mother was in there, wasn't it? Started singing when she was 90. What was the name of the band that they were in?
The Zimmers.
Yeah.
I know. Oh gosh, we played her singing "Let It Be" at her funeral, actually, with the Zimmers. Yeah, I mean, I want to be able to play stuff like what we've done and go, yeah. And I can. The Bonham Bullick album, every time I put it on, I just think, and I'm listening to the production actually now more than the vocals, but they got me a fantastic vocal sound, which Robert helped me with, because I hate everything being too I like space and breath around. I was going to say too compressed, but it is actually using the right compression that Robert explained to me. He said, you've got to get the right expression, because his solo albums, I mean, this is a man that's gone from Led Zeppelin to
bluegrass
solo career to where he's at. That could have been a disaster, and there he is, and everything he does
works.
It works.
It works. It's like there isn't a genre that you can imagine that he couldn't actually sing. I mean, I've seen him many, many times. And yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible. I'll tell you, in fact, one of my favourite incarnations of his was the one right at the very beginning in, I think it was 1981. I was at school. I remember getting a ticket to see him and a band called the Honey Drippers.
Honey Drippers, yeah.
I mean, how cool were they?
Well, Robert and that type of music, they go hand in hand.
Oh, the big band swing, it was fantastic.
And all of the Elvis, and he's just got that voice that can mold itself, but it's always Robert. I mean, he just quite it's amazing the transition of what he's done and how he's kept his integrity and how he has kept this amazing, I mean, I keep saying to him, the amazing body of work. We always laugh about the body of the work. The body
Do you know what,
of
the best thing that he never did, right? And if any, I can imagine people watching this now going, "Oh, I can't believe you don't know what you're talking about." Blah, blah, blah. The best thing he never did was get back and do a Led Zeppelin full-on return and start making albums with them again. The best thing he ever did was do what he did.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever possible. You know, I don't think it's ever been on the cards with any of them, to be honest. I mean, the thing is with Led Zeppelin, and it becomes, so clear if you go and see Becoming Led Zeppelin, is it was four of them. The four incredible players. I mean, they did an amazing job with my nephew at the O2. Jason did his father proud. You know, there's no doubt about that. He was phenomenal. And as a one-off, it was incredible. But, you know, I think that they always make the right decisions as well. You know, they were something else, which this film does really.
The aura of mystique, you know, is.
And I think if they'd
there.
have carried on or taken it, you know, and then maybe not had those great songs coming through, where then it starts to become a bit, you know.
Your recent album, the Bonham Bullick album that released the first time you decided to do an album of cover versions.
Yes.
But the big thing here was, unlike so many who would just go for the obvious, this was anything but Johnny Taylor, Stephen Stills, Albert King, Ron Davis. You've got a really eclectic mix. You know, you don't want to listen to these albums that come out where people just reproduce exactly what the original was. I mean, what is the point? You know, the original will always be better.
You've absolutely, you've read my mind there. I mean, I've said this on numerous occasions that I just don't want to do that. I don't see the point. The original is always better. And
absolutely.
You can do your own take on it, which is what and I found it really hard, because when I write songs, I sort of have a picture and I know where it's going to go and how it's going to sound. With this, I loved all these songs, and they are obscure. You know, there's quite a few. I think the Albert King is about the only one that's not really obscure. But I just thought, right, and now how? And I loved the originals, even though they are obscure. I've loved these songs. I thought, well, how am I going to do them? You know, and I've been told, you know, maybe this is a good idea to do a blues covers album, you know, by the record label that we went through. And I think they were a bit shocked when I did it, because I think they were expecting, you know, all the usual.
Oh, yeah.
It's not me. Again, it's just not me. So,
you didn't fancy doing Rubber Band Man, then?
I did. Oh, well, you know what? That's oh, goodness. My favourite. That's always the one that comes out if I'm at home and the music, if we've been to the pub. That's the one that comes on. Win his voice. Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Last night on TV on BBC, I think it was BBC Three, there was a career retrospective of the singer who was the most influential for you, Elkie Brooks.
Elkie. Oh my goodness! I know. I missed it. Pete watched it, said it was brilliant. So I'm going to watch that on catch up. Oh, big Elkie Brooks fan. Huge. I mean, she just, I don't. Words fail me for Elkie.
Well, and thanks to you, actually, I started to listen to an album that I'd never listened to before, which was Suicide South.
Oh, Maggie Bell.
Maggie Bell.
Yeah.
She's just.
It's mind blowing.
Magnificent.
You know, and then these women were trailblazing, because they. I mean, listen, I'm not going to get on my soapbox about how it is a very male dominated, you know, even though lots of women come through, women still have all the issues that men sometimes don't. But back then in the 70s, you know, I mean, it was pure male dominated. And so you had people like Janis Joplin and in the States, and, you know, here we got Maggie Bell and Elkie Brooks, just phenomenal women that were out there trailblazing and flying the flag for women to follow, you know, and it wasn't an easy road. I mean, I've read Elkie's book, I speak to Maggie. I've known Maggie. She knows that I'm an absolute wolf. She's been an inspiration. And I know her. And I've had long conversations with her about it, how hard it was, but they kept going. And then we had Christine McVie, of course, who was just phenomenal. And then, of course, joining with Stevie Nicks over in the States. So we had these women that were proper trailblazers. Yeah.
Joan Armatrading.
Joan Armatrading, amazing, absolutely amazing. A big fan. I mean, I remember when I first heard "I'm Not in Love," and
what a great line, but I'm open to persuasion.
Persuasion. Oh my goodness, I just sat there. And the same with Judy Zook, when she came.
First person I ever saw.
Yeah. Oh.
Judy Zook.
So
Stay With Me Till Dawn.
Dawn, yeah, which featured Mo Foster on bass, who I worked with for many years. We just did a concert. I did a concert with Judy for Mo, because his wife has dementia. She got it very young, and of course he passed away. So we were raising funds for her, which we did successfully. So
Joan's just released a new album, actually, that you should listen to.
I will, because Mo worked with Joan as well. Yeah.
Very, 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 very good. Very good indeed. And I was talking to her on the program about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And she comes across as incredibly shy. She doesn't like the limelight, doesn't like to do, camera, none of that. She just likes to be quiet and talk about the music. And her voice is still incredible.
Yeah, sensational.
But when you look back at all of the live performance, all the way back to the very beginning, all of these people and the bands that you toured with, Van Halen, Foreigner, Lonnie Donegan, Paul Rogers on that Stars Align thing, all the headline shows that you've done. What was the most memorable? When you sit down, like you poured yourself a drink when you come back from the pub and Rubber Band Man's on, and you sat there, and then all the memories start to come back. What's the greatest memory of a live show?
Well, it's not the greatest memory. It's the one that sticks out the most when my top fell off.
Where was that?
The place in Birmingham called the Hen and Chickens. And the bass player sidled up to me, who's still a very good friend of mine, Wayne Terry. And he was in the Honey Drippers. And Wayne came sidling up to me. He's got a proper, Midlands accent. And he said, "I don't like that." And he's going, Deb, your top's coming off. And I was like, what top's coming off? And I looked down, and oh my God. And I turned around, and all I could see was the drummer, who sadly passed away now, Bev Smith, who we called Stunch Bedlam at the time. And he was the drummer in the Honey Drippers as well. So it's all like,
full circle.
And I just turned around to try and pull this top up. Wardrobe malfunction. And he's just playing away going, "Let them all hang out." So that's the worst memory.
So tell me.
I can never get away from, but I learned how to find clothes that fits, and no matter where I move, nothing comes out of place. So there's a big lesson learnt then. But the best memory, it's too difficult, because I've played with some of the most incredible people that sometimes, I just pinch myself with the people that I've sung with, because, when I was on the Nazareth tour, I was a big fan of Nazareth, mainly through my brother John. He loved them. And,
Pete's still going.
Yes, he is. And I had we did this concert with them, and then we ended up on the tour bus, and they were just telling me stories about John and them in America. It was absolutely hysterical.
What a voice he had, by the way, Dan McCafferty.
Dan said to me, John just loved him, and they were in America, and Dan said they were there, and John came, and they were struggling. Their tour bus had broken down, and they'd got some problems. So John said, listen, we're not using our jet, so why don't you take the jet and, go off and do your gigs? Dan said to me, I said to him, "We can't afford the parking, let alone the petrol, John."
Do you know those two met, Pete and Dan, they met aged 5.
Yeah.
When they sat in the same class of school. Again, what a great story.
We went up from that tour bus and that festival we did with them. We went on tour with them. They said, "You've got to come on tour." And they're big Otis Redding fans as well, which I am. And there was a song that I do that's got that Otis Redding vibe about it. And they spotted that. So we went out and toured. And we had I can't tell you what a great time we had with them. And the last night of the show, last night of the tour, rather, we were in a place called Glen Rosses. We finished up in Scotland. We'd been out in Czechoslovakia. We'd done all sorts of things. And we're up in Glen Rosses. And I finished with Lorraine Ellison's Stay With Me, Baby, because I knew how much they loved it. And it was a big favourite, again, of my brother John and Michael's. And I'm singing, and Dan just walked out on the stage. And I sort of looked round and I went, wow, and he just walked out and he took the mic, waited for me to finish. I'm going to tear up because I loved the man. And he walked out on the stage and he just, in incredible timing, just came in and we sang it and then we harmonised in the choruses, and it was absolutely sublime. It really was. It was a special, special moment. So yeah, that was a great moment. But again, being brought out on with Paul Rodgers singing with Roberts, Van Halen, Chris Farlow,
Chris Farlow,
Al Peebles was just amazing. So there's a lot of them.
The big question has
very
to
lucky.
be. The big question has to be: have you ever? I mean, considering your vocal style, has there ever been a conversation about you doing an album with Robert?
No, and I really would never have wanted to do that. For that, I've got somebody yapping in the background. I don't know who he is. He was the guitarist in the band. He might not tomorrow, but I heard what he just said. He said, "Wait till his career is flagging, and then we'll help him out." Cheeky.
That's a great line.
Yeah, cheeky. And listen. Of course, maybe there's a time. Maybe now I'm older, and maybe there will be a time. But to be honest, it would. It would have to be so incredibly good, because for him and for me, with that, the heavy.
Yes, obviously.
It's that Zeppelin that's sitting over us.
Yeah, I get it.
And I just have never really. I'd get too nervous as well because I'm quite bossy in the studio.
Can you imagine?
I just have to take direction, because he's so brilliant, and he takes over. So I'd be so nervous standing there going, "Don't say anything, Dad, don't say anything." And I probably would say something.
Now, lastly, then, I wanted to touch on the animal thing, because all of these farm animals, the horses, you actually worked for a racehorse trainer.
I did.
Didn't you?
I did.
And this is how the getting involved in the horse charity and looking after retired racehorses came in.
Yes, I did. I worked for, up in the Midlands, a local racehorse trainer who had quite a lot of success, won the Cheltenham Gold Cup.
Who was that? Not John Joe?
No, it was a horse called Born Oaks, and the trainer was Martin Tate.
Right.
So, I worked there. I fell in love with a beautiful horse there called Donald. I forgot what race name that was now. It was just Donald to me. And I wanted so much to have him, but I couldn't. I just thought, he's going to be thousands and thousands of pounds. He's a racehorse. And sadly, I found the reality of the race world back then was, he wasn't a very good racehorse. And one day I turned up and he'd gone. And that was the end of him. Now, I would have had him in a heartbeat, and it broke my heart. And I thought from there on, you know, I want to get involved in this industry, because it wasn't a clean industry. It really wasn't, you know.
How did you get royal recognition? The Crown Prince of Bahrain, Sheikh Salman bin Hamad, sending you this specially made horse box to transport injured horses. I mean, how did you get onto his radar?
He was a big fan of my music.
Was he really?
Oh no, he loved Led Zeppelin. Oh goodness.
Well, it's not impossible.
Pushed a few of my albums there, I can tell you. He told me not to come back again. He said, "Don't come and ask me for any more money. It's done." No, he was brilliant. It was during the O2.
Yeah.
There was a few shillings. How do you say? Some silver passed hands, in that he wanted to go to the O2 to see Led Zeppelin, and he'd been in touch with Robert, and so Robert said, "Well, my friend,"
Brilliant.
because actually the Crown Prince was a big horse aficionado as well, you know. So it was great, and he sent his emissary, or whatever you call them, came over, and I met with him, and he was absolutely amazing. And we talked for a long time about, you know, what was needed to try and help the racing industry to clean it up, you know, because so many people go and bet on these horses. They've got no idea that what happens to horses after racing, a bit like dog racing, same thing. Racing isn't quite as clean as there's a lot more ethical horse trainers now than there were. You know, they were just a bit of a commodity, and and it's difficult to rehome these big creatures. You know, dogs are easier, but they're still killing the dogs, you know, across the world. I mean, it's tough. You've just got to keep in there and
Are you and Paul Rogers still patrons of the Animal Sanctuary in Scotland?
No, we that charity started to it actually became really good, and we got some what Paul and Cynthia, his wife, and myself and Pete have always done is, if we get a charity right, you know, from nothing and on its really moving and up on its legs, and with funds and reserves and people coming in, then we move on to the next smaller one to try and do the same. So,
right.
But we always keep our eye on them all. You know, the Racehorse Sanctuary, Willows. We're still out there just watching, but those two charities are doing great. They always need help, of course, but they don't need our absolutes getting in there and bringing all the people in and raising the funds, because we did a lot for both of them. It's how Paul and my band got playing together, you know, through the horses. So we started doing the charity gigs, and he used my band, and then he said, gosh, this is really good. I'm liking this. And then it just grew and grew until we finished off at the Albert Hall with an incredible show and raised a lot of money for Willows at that point. So yeah. No, now I'm a patron for it's called Sussex Underwater. So we're desperately trying to clean up the sea, the sewage, bring the kelp back, stop the trawling that's wrecked all our inshore waters. So that's a very small charity at the moment, and we're trying to build that up so that all around the country everybody starts to protect their waters, you know.
Absolutely.
A lot of great people involved in all the sewage and the river stuff. So, yeah.
Last question then, and then you can be on your way. What is the best Led Zeppelin album? If you can only have one, okay, you have to pick one.
I can't. Listen,
all right,
he's
two.
Not asking you. It is. Do another. He's not asking you.
No, he keeps
asking me. I don't know. I can't because I love Zepp 1. Yes, of course, I can hear in the background he's shouting Zepp 1, but I love Zepp 2. I love Zepp 3.
Then Zepp 4.
I love Zepp 4. Physical Graffiti, I'm just crazy about, but you know what? no, I can't. I'm just going to have to take them all on the desert island, you know. I'm just going to have to. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to get them all there with you know, the Detroit Spinners and all the rest of the stuff that I love. I'll just have to take an Arctic lorry to the desert island and just sit there, because I've got to have Joni Mitchell, Courtney Spark as well. So, Led Zeppelin, it's a conundrum for me because I am such a huge fan. You know, their music, their playing ability, the production, the sound. It's you know, I always thought when they're this beam of light that I just, you know, constantly look up to and try to absorb because it's so brilliant. And after seeing the film, you would think that you would just watch this and think, give it up, just give up. You're never going to ball. You never get as good as that, you know. And no, you can't. But what it did was it inspired. It was so inspiring, the film, to see them again from the beginning, starting up. And it made me so thrilled. I went to see it with the band, and we just came back and toasted them, you know, because it made us so happy to be in a band. And that's what it's all about. I love my band. I love being in my band. I love touring with them. I love the fun we have, the arguments we have, everything about it.
What is next for you and the band, by the way?
New album. We've been doing new songs, which are originals now. I've come back to wanting to.
Yeah.
You know, I had a big gap where I was writing, so we've got original songs that we're doing in the set, just getting them warmed up, ready to go in the studio. And we start in April. We start in Edinburgh on the 3rd, I think. Caves in Edinburgh, and then we're in the Midlands on Sunday. We're all over the place. We're in France, Belgium, and
fabulous.
Property Festival as well. I'm so looking forward to that. I can't wait to do Property. It's my all-time favourite festival. And there's some great festivals out there. Wayfest is a great one, and you know, there's been quite a few that we've done that we've loved, but Property is just fantastic. So yeah, we've got that in August with the almighty Fairport Convention. So yeah, can't wait.